A for exposing my family in a birthday toast for only wanting my money? My name is Lauren, and that is how my life completely turned upside down. It all started when I was about to finish my college degree. I had a very clear plan, like any girl at 22. Get my degree, find a good job, save up to rent a small apartment, even if it was in a less glamorous neighborhood, and start my life. The usual. Then a phone call changed everything. "Lauren, sweetie, we need to talk," my mom said over the phone. Her voice sounded strange, broken, like someone who had already been crying and still had a lump in their throat. "Can you come home this weekend? It is about your dad." I felt my stomach tie into a knot. I was studying and doing my internship in Los Angeles during the week. So that Friday, I drove back to our house in the San Fernando Valley with sweaty hands on the steering wheel and my head full of horrible ideas. We lived in a modest suburban home, one of those where things have been added on over the years. As soon as I opened the door, I knew something was wrong. My dad, David, was sitting at the kitchen table, pale with deep dark circles under his eyes. My mom was hovering around him as if one wrong move would break him. "What happened?" I asked, dropping my backpack by the entrance. My dad looked up with tired eyes. "I went to the doctor last week for some chest pains," he said. "And well, it turns out my heart is not doing so great, kiddo." Everything shut down inside me. My dad had always been strong. His whole life on construction sites, lifting, carrying, walking among rebar and cement bags as if it were nothing. He never complained. Seeing him so fragile truly scared me. "The cardiologist said I can no longer continue with heavy labor," he continued. "I am going to have to find something less strenuous, even if it is part-time." My mom sat next to him and squeezed his hand tightly. "We are worried about the monthly mortgage payment on the house, Lauren," she said, looking at me as if I had the solution in my purse. "With what your dad is going to earn now, it won't be enough." I felt a sharp blow to my chest. Money had always been tight in our house, but somehow we always managed to scrape by. And right when I was about to kickstart my life, everything was falling apart. "And there is also your sister," my mom added, turning toward the stairs. "Madison is 16. She is in high school. She needs things, clothes, school supplies. You know how that age is." As if she had been summoned, Madison came skipping down the stairs with headphones on and her cell phone glued to her face, completely oblivious to the heavy conversation happening in the kitchen. She looked so young, so carefree, 6 years younger than me. The baby of the house, the forever spoiled one. "What's up?" she said, barely looking up. "I didn't know you were coming." "Hey, Madison," I managed to say. Madison went into the living room without asking anything, as if the world couldn't touch her. As soon as she disappeared, my mom leaned toward me with eyes full of urgency. "Lauren, we know it is a lot to ask, but we need your help." I stayed quiet. "Would you consider moving back here when you graduate?" she continued. "Just for a while until we get settled." I looked at them both. They were my parents, the ones who had worked their fingers to the bone so I could study. How was I going to say no to them? So I graduated and returned to my childhood bedroom. Within a week, I already had a job at an accounting firm in downtown LA. One of those high-rise buildings with glass walls, with expensive coffee on the ground floor, and people walking fast with their badges hanging from lanyards. They paid me decently for a recent graduate, and I felt proud. I had moved quickly. That pride didn't last long. My first paycheck was directly deposited into my account, and I was thrilled, thinking, finally real money. I arrived home ready to talk about a budget, to set aside at least something for myself. I had barely crossed the door when my dad said from the kitchen, "Lauren, tomorrow is the day to pay the mortgage." My mom added, as if it were a grocery list, "And the electric bill arrived. And we have to pay for the gas. And the groceries are almost running out." Just like that, without drama, without a pause, my paycheck evaporated. Bank transfers, online payments, bills, everything. Mortgage, utilities, groceries, gas for the car, whatever it took to keep the house afloat. I kept telling myself it was temporary, that in a few months things would settle down, that my dad would find something stable, that I would soon be able to save up and become independent, but it didn't happen. Month after month, most of my paychecks went directly to the house. I worked full-time, endured the brutal LA traffic on the way back, and often spent almost 2 hours getting from downtown to the valley during rush hour. Even so, my account was always nearly empty. In contrast, Madison had what she needed for high school. New clothes, new sneakers, money for activities, outings with friends. She just needs to fit in, my mom would say when I asked why there were so many expenses. High school is tough, sweetie. I don't want people looking down on her. 2 years went by like this. Madison finished high school and I honestly got my hopes up. I thought, now the pressure is finally going to drop. I pictured myself saving up, looking for a small apartment in a nicer part of the valley, or maybe even closer to the city, expensive but mine. And then Madison announced at the table, I got accepted. My parents lit up as if they had been handed the world. My little girl, my mom said proudly, you are going to go far. I smiled, but inside I felt the floor sink beneath me. I am going to enroll in a private university in Orange County, Madison said, as casually as someone asking for a glass of water. And yes, I am going to live in a dorm nearby because it is far, and I don't want to deal with the daily traffic. That was when I understood what was coming, and it arrived exactly as expected. Tuition, room and board, supplies, books, and an allowance so she wouldn't be tight on money. To not sound like I am exaggerating, I will be clear, Madison got a partial scholarship. It wasn't a huge deal, but it lowered the cost a bit. Still, the remaining balance was heavy. It is an investment in her future. My mom repeated over and over with that tone that allows no arguments. You understand, right, Lauren? Family is family. So there I was at 24 working full-time and paying for almost everything that moved in that house. My dad contributed something with his easier job, but it was little. And my mom did what she could, taking custom orders for cakes when they came up, but it wasn't consistent. In practice, when a balance needed to be covered, I was the one covering it. While I slept in my teenage bedroom, I saw my friends on social media renting apartments, going on trips, going out to dinner, going on dates, living. I couldn't even say yes to a coffee after work without thinking about the utility bill. One Friday, a coworker named Rachel invited me out with some friends. We are going to Big Bear for the weekend, she told me. A really cute little cabin. We are leaving early, and it is about a 2 or 3 hour drive without much traffic. It is not expensive. About $400 for the whole weekend, including meals. Come on, Lauren. You never do anything. I laughed nervously. I will think about it, I told her. Inside, I was already calculating how to pull it off without the house falling apart. That night at dinner, I dropped it carefully, like someone tossing a pebble and bracing for the impact. Some friends from work are going out this weekend. I was thinking about going. My mom slowly looked up with that expression I already knew. And how much does something like that cost? It is not that much, I said. Like $400 for everything. My mom put her fork down. Lauren, sweetie, you know how we are doing right now. Madison needs to buy some textbooks, and the water heater is making weird noises. $400 could be used for something useful around the house. My throat tightened. I was carrying almost everything and couldn't even spend $400 on a weekend for myself. You are right, I said quietly. I will tell them I can't. My mom smiled, satisfied, as if I had passed a test. That is my girl, family first. Another 2 years passed. I was 26 now. 4 straight years supporting the household. Years of my life that vanished into work, traffic, wire transfers, bills, and I had nothing to show for it. A closet with old clothes, the same cell phone with a cracked screen from years ago, and an account where I rarely saw more than a few $100s. Meanwhile, Madison was experiencing college as if it were a different reality. Every time she came to visit, she brought new things. Designer jeans, expensive makeup, the latest iPhone, and I was still nursing my phone held together with tape on the corner. Where does she get the money for all this? I asked my mom one day, watching Madison show off a designer bag to her high school friends. Oh, you know how college students are, my mom replied, brushing it off. I am sure she saved up from something or got a part-time job on campus. But it didn't add up. Madison never talked about working, and when I asked her directly, she would change the subject in seconds. The breaking point came during the spring break of her sophomore year. Madison came back with shopping bags. New sneakers that, just by looking at them, I knew cost more than my monthly groceries, and a bunch of high-end skincare products. I was in the kitchen cooking when she walked in, wearing a flawless new leather jacket. What a beautiful jacket, I said, trying to sound calm. It looks expensive. Madison shrugged and took a soda out of the fridge. I bought it last week. There was a great sale. A sale, I repeated. That jacket looks like it is worth $300, Madison. She stood still for a second. Then she turned to me with a weird look on her face, somewhere between guilt and anger. It didn't cost that much. Madison, I said more firmly. Where are you getting the money for all this? As far as I know, you don't work. The color rushed to her face, and she started playing with the zipper on her jacket. That is none of your business, Lauren. Yes, it is my business. I snapped at her, having lost all my patience. I am paying for your tuition, your dorm, your food, and on top of that, the expenses for this house. So, of course it is my business to know where you are getting hundreds of dollars to spend on shopping. Madison glared at me with rage. It is just that if you were less, I don't know, uptight, you would understand. In college, you need to look good. I don't want to look basic. Uptight, I repeated, feeling my face heat up. I work all day and every single dollar comes here. I don't buy myself anything. I can't even afford new clothes. Madison rolled her eyes. Whatever you say, Lauren. You don't get it. Then explain it to me, I said, stepping a bit closer. Where is the money coming from? I don't have to tell you anything, she yelled, and suddenly her eyes filled with tears. She turned around and ran upstairs. She slammed her bedroom door with such force that the pictures in the hallway rattled. I stood there with my hands shaking, caught between anger and confusion. Something was wrong, and nobody wanted to tell me the truth. My parents got back from the supermarket right as Madison was locking herself in her room. What is all that yelling? My dad asked, leaving the grocery bags on the counter. I asked Madison where she gets the money for so many expensive things, and she completely freaked out, I said. My parents exchanged a weird look. My mom started putting the groceries away at top speed without making eye contact. Lauren, stop bothering your sister about that, she said. Bothering her? I replied. Mom, she is spending big money and she doesn't work. Where does it come from? My dad cleared his throat uncomfortably. Look, your sister just wants to fit in. College is not easy. That doesn't answer the question, I said, growing more resolute. Where is the money coming from? The silence that followed told me everything. My mom was arranging cans as if her life depended on it. My dad pretended to inspect a bag of oranges as if it were a test. The realization hit me hard. Crystal clear. Don't tell me, I said slowly. You are giving Madison money from what I give you for the house. Lauren, it is not that simple, my mom started. Yes, it is exactly that simple. My voice came out louder than I intended. I am killing myself working to pay the mortgage, the electricity, the water, and you guys take that money and give it to Madison for shopping. She needs a few things, my dad said as if it were the most normal thing in the world. She doesn't want to look, out of place. So I do have to look out of place? I replied with a lump in my throat. I have to wear the same old clothes and carry a broken phone just so she can carry a designer bag? My mom finally looked at me. Her expression was no longer apologetic. It was cold. You are being selfish, Lauren. Your sister is building her future. Future? I scoffed. She is buying expensive jeans and makeup, not tools for her career. They both stayed quiet, looking guilty, and I realized this was not new. This had been going on for months, maybe years, taking every sacrifice of mine, funding a life that I wasn't allowed to live. It is over, I said, taking a deep breath. I will give you enough for the necessities. The house mortgage, utilities, groceries, and that is it. No more indulging Madison's whims. My mom clenched her jaw. You are overreacting. Your sister deserves to enjoy this stage of her life. And I don't. I replied with a calmness that surprised me. I also deserve to have a life, but here I am trapped, paying for almost everything while you lie to me. My dad tried to soften the blow. We can figure out what to do. Reach a middle ground. The middle ground is that Madison stops spending my money on things that are not necessary, I said. If she wants designer clothes, let her get a job. I walked out of the kitchen, leaving them there. For the first time in years, I felt like I was standing up for myself, but I also realized something. I couldn't just leave right then. I didn't have a security deposit. I didn't have a financial cushion. So I stayed, but things were no longer the same. I quietly began to plan my way out. After that, the house became a minefield. Madison completely stopped talking to me. She would walk past me in the hallway as if I were invisible. No good morning, not even a glance. At the table, if I said something, she would just stare at her plate in silence. First, I tried to fix it. She was my sister, the little one. One night, I caught up with her as she was coming out of the bathroom. "Hey, can we talk?" I asked. She looked at me as if she didn't know me and kept walking. "Madison," I insisted without raising my voice. "I am trying to talk to you." She got to her room and slammed the door again. That went on for weeks. Every family meal was awkward. My parents looked at me with disappointment, as if I were the villain for refusing to fund shopping sprees. "You could be nicer to your sister," my mom suggested one night after Madison had locked herself away. "She is the one who ignores me as if I had done something awful to her," I answered wearily. "Just because I am no longer going to pay for her things. She is going through a tough time at school," my dad said. "We all go through tough times," I replied. "That does not mean the rest of us have to go broke just to make her feel good." I was exhausted from that silent war. If Madison wanted to throw a tantrum, fine. I had bigger problems. I was 26, still living in that house, and couldn't see a way out. And then they made it worse. A few weeks later, Madison came back for a long weekend, and at dinner, she announced it as if it were the most normal thing. "I want to go to Cancun with my friends for spring break," she said, smiling. And for the first time in months, she spoke directly to me. "It is going to be amazing," she went on. "We are going to stay in a really nice resort, close to the beach." My parents beamed as if she had just delivered the news of the year. "That is so cool, sweetie," my mom said. "You deserve a vacation." I nearly choked. Madison continued, entirely unbothered. "It will be somewhere between $1,000 and $1,200 including the flight, hotel, and expenses. If we book it early, it will be cheaper." Then she stared straight at me, waiting. The table fell silent. My parents also turned toward me with that you-know-the-drill look on their faces. I set my fork down and shook my head. "No." Madison went from hopeful to furious in 2 seconds. "What do you mean, no? What do you mean? What do I mean?" I echoed. "I am not going to pay for your vacation." "But Lauren," my dad started. "If it is so important, you guys pay for it," I snapped. "I am not financing a trip when I haven't had a real break in years." Madison threw her fork onto her plate with a loud clatter. "I am not hungry anymore," she declared dramatically, and she stormed off. My mom glared at me as if I were the villain. "You are being too harsh. She is young, she needs to have fun." "And I don't," I retorted. "I should be able to have fun too, but instead, I am working to fund everyone's lifestyle." "You are the oldest," my dad said seriously. "You have a responsibility." "I understand perfectly," I stated without faltering. $1,000 for a vacation is sheer madness when we barely have enough for the basics. They just stared at me as if I were the selfish one. But there was no turning back for me. I no longer wanted to be the family's ATM. The days that followed were worse. Madison went back to ignoring me, and now my parents were giving me the cold shoulder too. But I stood my ground. There was no money for Cancun, and then came my mom's birthday. She asked for my help to get the house looking perfect. "The whole family is coming," she said. "Your aunts and uncles, your cousins, some friends from down the street." I wanted to look beautiful. I agreed to help her because at the end of the day she was my mom. Even though everything was hurting me, we spent the day cleaning. I swept, mopped, dusted, and also helped her prep for the backyard barbecue. We made classic party food: potato salad, burgers, hot dogs, a baked casserole, dessert, and snacks. One of those gatherings where there is never enough table space and always too many chairs. We were almost done when I told her, "I am going upstairs to clean the guest room." Upstairs, amidst the dust and cleaning spray, I got thirsty. I quietly went back down for some water, and that is when I heard voices near the stairs. It was my mom and Madison speaking in hushed tones. I heard my name. I stopped dead in my tracks, my heart pounding against my ribs. Something told me not to move. I leaned in just close enough to hear them. I can't wait for Lauren to get out of here, Madison was saying. The day she leaves, I will throw her stuff out myself, and that room is going to be my walk-in closet. I pressed my lips together and kept listening. Okay, my mom said, but she was laughing. Not yet. Why not? Madison insisted. Because we can't kick her out just yet, my mom replied, unfazed as if she were talking about replacing a piece of furniture. There is still a long way to go on the house mortgage. About $150,000. Madison let out a small laugh. But once it is paid off, she is gone, right? And this house is going to be mine. Of course, my mom said. You are going to need more support. Lauren knows how to fend for herself. This house will be yours someday. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. I couldn't breathe. Right there were my mom and my sister talking about me as if I were a scheme, an asset, a transaction. Using me until the house was paid off, and then tossing me out empty-handed. For years supporting them, for years putting my life on pause. And to them, I wasn't a daughter or a sister. I was a walking bank account. For a split second, I wanted to step out and confront them. I wanted to scream at them, but another idea sparked in my mind, colder, much clearer. The party was in 2 days. The whole family was going to be there. Everyone who thought we were a tight-knit, exemplary, loving family. I went back upstairs as if nothing had happened. I finished cleaning with steady hands. The next 2 days were the best acting performance of my life. I smiled at breakfast, I helped with the food. I played along with Madison's conversations whenever she deigned to speak to me. Inside, I just kept hearing that phrase over and over. We can't kick her out just yet. There is still a long way to go on the mortgage. I had already discreetly packed 2 suitcases, hidden away in my closet. I had also found a tiny apartment across town. Modest, but mine. To scrape together the security deposit and first month's rent, I did something I had never done before. I opened a separate bank account and started saving whatever I could. I stopped covering extras and only handed over what was strictly necessary. Plus, my profit-sharing bonus from work came through, and I saved every penny of it. I signed the lease quickly, no fuss, without asking for permission. On the day of the birthday, the house was packed. My aunts and uncles arrived, my cousins, my mom's friends. Laughter, clinking plates, soft music, kids running around. It all looked like the picture-perfect family. Lauren, you look exhausted, sweetheart. My Aunt Susan told me when she hugged me. Are you working too hard? If only she knew. The afternoon went on amidst food, chatter, and anecdotes. Then came the presents. My mom unwrapped flowers, a sweater, a bracelet, gift cards, lovely things. Now Lauren's turn, someone announced. I walked up and handed her an elegant, beautiful envelope, the kind that looks important. How thoughtful, my mom said, beaming at everyone. She opened it carefully, as if expecting cash or a gift card. She peered inside and her face went blank. Where is the gift? She asked, confused, holding the envelope up for everyone to see. I smiled sweetly without a single tremble. Exactly, I declared. Nothing. That is exactly what you, David, and Madison deserve from me. The silence fell heavily. One of those silences where you can even hear the air conditioning. My mom turned red. Lauren, I don't understand. This must be a mistake. My mom tried to compose herself quickly, as if wanting to save face in front of everyone. Lauren must just be tired, she is feeling sensitive. It was a misunderstanding. It is no mistake, I cut her off calmly. 2 days ago, I overheard a very interesting conversation between you and Madison about how excited you both are to kick me out as soon as I finish paying off the house mortgage. About how Madison is going to keep this house and you are going to leave me with nothing. Gasps and whispers rippled through the room. Someone muttered, "What?" in a low voice. Madison turned pale. I also found out that the money I give you for the bills is being used to fund Madison's shopping sprees. I added, looking around at everyone. So I figured, why would I give you anything for your party when you have already decided that I am going to end up with nothing? My dad jumped up from his seat. His face was stern, his gaze furious. Lauren, it is your mother's birthday. How dare you ruin it with these things? With these things, I echoed, letting out a short, joyless laugh. Dad, I have spent 4 years paying for the vast majority of this house's expenses. The mortgage, the utilities, the groceries, Madison's tuition, her dorm room, whatever falls short, I am the one who covers it. And this is how you repay me. Planning to throw me out when you no longer need my money. Madison started to cry. You are an awful sister, she cried with a cracking voice. I hate you. That is fine, I responded without raising my voice. Because I am officially done being this family's ATM. Today I am leaving this house, and I will never pay another bill here again. I stared right at Madison. Your dream of me leaving is about to come true, only now, you are going to have to figure out how to pay for your own college. In the background, someone murmured something, and then my Aunt Linda, my dad's sister, stood up with her eyes wide open. Hold on, she said slowly. Lauren has been supporting everyone? My mom gulped. Aunt Linda looked at the other relatives as if seeking confirmation. Because we were told something else. They told us that Lauren was still living here because she couldn't find a good job, that you guys were helping her out, poor thing. Whispers broke out. My Uncle Robert nodded. They told me the same thing, he blurted out. That Lauren was struggling, that you were keeping her afloat. I wasn't even surprised. Of course they had lied about that too. Well, now you all know the truth, I said, looking at the crowd. I truly apologize for this, but I couldn't keep pretending anymore. I headed upstairs for my bags while chaos erupted behind me. Confused voices, people demanding answers, others trying to calm things down. When I came down with my 2 suitcases, everyone was staring at me as if the living room had turned into a reality show episode. Goodbye, I stated simply. I walked out the door without looking back. Outside, several relatives followed me, trying to make sense of it all. With steady hands, I loaded my bags into my car and drove away. My apartment was tiny, echoey, and almost empty, but when I crossed that threshold, I felt something I hadn't felt in 4 years. Freedom. Obviously, my family didn't leave me in peace. Within the first hour, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. My mom, my dad, Madison, phone calls, texts, voicemails. I didn't answer a single one. I didn't even read the texts. It hurt, sure, but it also brought me a sense of peace I didn't know existed. After about a month of silence, a distant cousin I rarely spoke to gave me a call. Lauren, he said seriously, you have to work things out with your parents. They are struggling a lot without your help. Good, I replied and hung up. Then others started calling with the exact same speech, telling me to forgive them, that families are just like that, to not hold a grudge, to think about my dad. I hung up on them one by one. 3 months later, I found out through mutual acquaintances that Madison had been forced to drop out of college. There wasn't enough for tuition, not even with the scholarship. She was now working a retail job at a mall in the valley, trying to help my parents cover the monthly mortgage payment. And honestly, I didn't feel sorry for them. For the first time in years, I was able to buy clothes without guilt. I could go out with my friends, I could save money, I could breathe. I became a person again and not just a paycheck. They made their choice the moment they decided to use me. They thought they could exploit my love forever, that I would never find out, that I was never going to say, enough is enough. They were wrong. Now it was their turn to learn how to survive without me, just as I had to learn how to survive without them. I was no longer their crutch, I was no longer their backup plan, and I had never felt so much at peace. Comment. Setting boundaries with the people we love is often one of the hardest things we ever have to do. We grow up believing that loyalty means sacrificing our own dreams to keep everyone else afloat. True love and family support should always be a two-way street built on mutual respect. When you realize that your kindness is being mistaken for weakness, it is completely valid to step back and protect your peace. Choosing yourself does not make you a bad person. Sometimes walking away is the only way to heal and rebuild a life that truly belongs to you. Everyone deserves a safe space where they are valued for who they are, not just for what they can provide. I hope this reminds you to honor your own worth and hold on to your self-respect. You have every right to write a new chapter filled with happiness and healthy boundaries. Please take care of your heart and remember that your well-being matters just as much as anyone else's. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.